Okay, so they said that there was not a claim presented upon which relief could be granted, which is a pretrial dismissal. No evidentiary, no evidence was actually weighed. There was no meritorious decision on a single election case.
Okay, that's fine, but no meritorious decision.
Wait, how is that fine? Wait, what? How is that fine? Then it's true, they didn't actually look at the evidence. Oh, that's fine that they didn't look at the evidence. What?
What part of this isn't a crime, or how is this not a crime?
Well, if they didn't know they were committing fraud, then you've got a real problem because fraud requires criminal intent.
I'm trying to think. Hold on, no. Wait, that might be true, but then
it's definitely true.
Sure, but then it would just be but then it would just be kicked up the chain, right? The mens rea would transfer to the person that encouraged them to commit the criminal act.
Okay, now here's the question: Can Trump actually be party to fraud in this case? Is a real question, because here's the issue. So we're hung up on this idea. I'll say you're hung up on this idea. It doesn't particularly matter to me that there are these statements in their electoral on their elector form that says they met at the Capitol and that they're empowered by the state. They're not empowered by the state, but they're presuming that they will be empowered by the state. And you've got this.
Wait, just to be clear, you're saying they're presuming, but they attested that they were currently empowered. That's important. But go ahead. Because if they had said in the future we believe we will be, then I don't think you've got the fraudulent element here. But go ahead.
There's a complicating factor in all of this, and the complicating factor is that
those words don't matter. They literally don't matter. Whether they think they were or whether they said in the future they would be, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. They can still pick them whether they think they're going to be one in the future or whether they said that they were already. Like, they could still pick them. It doesn't matter. Lying doesn't automatically mean that it's illegal. Like, that's the whole point, and Destiny just doesn't agree with that.
Process by which electors need to be submitted to the vice president, right?
Okay.
We can agree on that in December, I think it's 19th, the slate of electors must be delivered.
Sure.
And these false slates of electors, in all cases, were delivered by December 19th, following that constitutional process to that measure, correct?
Not all of them. I think Michigan and one other state, they tried to hand deliver it to Pence because they didn't get the mail in time or something, and Pence said no, but more or less, yeah, they tried to deliver them in time, sure.
Exactly. Pence said no, and that's it.
Right. So there's this critical element here in which this gets really deep into the questions of what kind of law interacts with what kind of authority that exists and what kind of processes need to be followed. The same reason that the Democrats impeached Trump before he left office on January 20th, right? They weren't sure if they could impeach a non-sitting president for acts commit as president because he's not there, so it's maybe mooted. So they made sure to actually file the impeachment papers even though the trial would happen afterwards. In the same way, there's this question of whether or not a alternate slate of electors could be presented after December 19th because it would be outside the constitutional process. So there's a scramble to get these alternate slates in there. The question then becomes, if a president, if anybody credibly believes that there is a fraud committed in the election process, but they're still trying to act within the bounds of the constitutional process that exists for selecting the next president, does a statement on a paper created by a state law process for picking electors that may not even be binding on the state actually matter in any real sense?
No.
Rather than the constitutional process that it's being followed.
No shot. None of this is true. If you believe that the fraud happens, there are appropriate channels to pursue that.
What's the appropriate channel?
One was the courts.
No court would even accept a single case. They all denied them on standing and laches grounds.
They did not deny them on standing. About 30 of them were denied on evidentiary grounds because they didn't present any evidence. Yeah, that is true. We can go through case and case. There's conservative documents talking about every single case. Half of these, the majority of the ones that were rejected were done on evidentiary grounds. They try to say that it was all in standing.
Okay, so they said that there was not a claim presented upon which relief could be granted, which is a pretrial dismissal. No evidence was actually weighed. There was no meritorious decision on a single election case.
Okay, that's fine, but no meritorious decision.
Wait, how is that fine? Wait, what? How is that fine? Then it's true, they didn't actually look at the evidence. Oh, that's fine that they didn't look at the evidence. What? I guess Destiny will explain.
It doesn't matter if you're bringing a claim to a judge with no evidentiary basis and with insane cries for relief. When the only remedy that you're looking for is the flipping of the entire state electoral.
Remember, this is Destiny, the non-lawyer person, talking to Mr. Lawyer down here. Yeah, Destiny, the non-lawyer, telling what Mr. Lawyer how the law actually works right now. just remember this dynamic here.
Vote count, and when you're not bringing any evidence to any of these judges for it, of course they're going to reject these. But I'm sure that's standard practice for any case across the country.
You're conflating things.
What am I conflating?
Well, you're conflating bad cases brought by people like Sidney Powell, acting
and
alone,
Giuliani.
by the way. I don't think Giuliani didn't bring bad cases. He made very bad arguments. He wasn't the one filing a lot of cases. He was brought into cases that were already filed. But there were meritorious cases that were brought that were dismissed on standing and laches grounds. One of them involving the Supreme Court saying that no one listed, the Texas versus Georgia case, saying that no one listed had standing to bring this case, even though Trump was a intervening an impleading party to that. So they literally suggested that the sitting president and the leading contesting candidate had no standing to bring a lawsuit against a state for an alleged fraud in the election.
I don't think he was one of the primary plaintiffs for that case.
Doesn't matter. He was a plaintiff on that case.
Oh, so it is true that they were basically all like dismissed because of no standing or whatever. So the judges never actually looked at the evidence. So whenever Destiny says, "Oh, they did look at the evidence, but they just they didn't actually have any evidence." Like, that's just a cop out whenever it's a cope. Honestly, it's a cope. Destiny hates Trump. So he just thinks that Trump obviously doesn't have any evidence because like it's Trump. Like Trump's bad. Like why would Trump bad equal have evidence? Like that doesn't make any sense. Trump bad does not equal have evidence. That's true. 100%.
He was pled into that case.
If he was pled into it, why didn't he file the case? Why would Texas have standing to tell Georgia how to run an election? Why would any state be able to tell any other state? I thought we lived in a federalist or states' rights place, right? Why would we want any other state to declare another state how they should run their election process?
Why don't you tell me what lawsuit should be brought if a state believes that another state has disenfranchised their electoral votes through their fraud?
What is the injury to the state? You have to prove injury for have standing. Well, how is Texas injured by how Georgia runs their elections?
Okay, so if Georgia...
Wait. Hold on, wait.
Well, if Georgia... Okay, let's use Destiny's hypothetical that he's going to end up forgetting about. And he's going to be like, what? I never said that. But let's use his hypothetical, Destiny's hypothetical. What would be the injury for the other state if one state ends up fraudulently like making up their own votes while who's president? Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. Right down there, comments below. Thank you very much. Right over here.
I need you to answer that question. Tell me, how is Texas injured? How do you prove standing that the thing affects you?
The injury is that the president that they wanted didn't actually come in, but that's a very basic and downgraded way of saying it. Like, sure, whatever. You prove it or don't prove it. I'm not 100% sure, but that's basically the injury.
If you're looking at the state of Georgia,
like it's the flip of the
voters
of the president
Texas have selected a person, and the state of Georgia's fraud results in that person not being elected. Instead, someone else is, then their electoral votes their right to their electoral votes has actually been stripped of them by the fraud of another state.
No, it hasn't been. The right of their votes is that absolutely not. You're completely wrong. The people in Texas were able to vote.
Yeah, the non-lawyer is telling the lawyer that you're completely wrong about law. Okay. Good job, Destiny.
Their electoral votes are submitted to Congress, and their votes were counted. They don't have a right to determine how any other state does their vote. If Georgia wanted to, my understanding, if Georgia wanted to, Georgia could pass a law saying, we're always going to vote for the Democrats, and they would do that. I don't know if another state would have standing to say, well, that's not fair. Our votes aren't being counted because your state is voting in a way we don't like.
See, now you're getting back to that plenary authority argument.
Sure.
Where the states can pick whatever electors they want.
But they didn't in this case, even though the people attested to it.
It doesn't matter if they did.
Well, it does.
Pick whatever electors they want.
No, it doesn't.
Have a false slate of electors. That's a fraud.
Because they weren't picked. It would be like me holding someone up at gunpoint saying, I think I'm going to be
It literally just said it doesn't matter if it's picked. The lawyer told you it doesn't matter if it's picked. And Dusty's like, actually, I know a little bit more about law than you, Mr. Lawyer. It does matter. Listen, you're just being retarded right now.
deputized tomorrow, so I'm going to arrest you now. You can't do that.
Who was harmed?
Who was harmed where? In Georgia?
By the electors that weren't picked. Where's the harm?
The attempted harm would have been the entire
Why would it be
population.
attempted harm?
Because the entire population that voted in that state would have been harmed because their votes would have been
This next part is going to be a revelation, so listen closely.
basically discounted.
Wait, whoa, no. If they have plenary authority to decide how they do elections,
Let me go back just 2 seconds.
Who was harmed?
Who was harmed where? In Georgia?
By the electors that weren't picked. Where's the harm?
The attempted harm would have
Sorry, I got candy in my mouth. The candy's good. Tastes really good. It's amazing. So, I'm sorry if I sound weird.
been the entire
Why would it be
population.
attempted harm?
Because the entire population that voted in that state would have been harmed because their votes would have been basically discounted.
Wait, whoa, no. If they have plenary authority to decide how they do elections, which is what you just said, Georgia
Yep.
could say, we're going to vote for Democrats every time and no one could question it.
Did
right?
Georgia do that?
Sorry. Give me 2 seconds.
I don't know. You were the one who presented that hypothetical.
No, the problem is that they claimed that the state legislature said that they could be the electors, and they weren't. You're telling me you keep saying it's possible. Yeah, it's possible, but they didn't.
Okay, so who was harmed?
Well, the attempted harm would be the voters.
Why would it be harm?
Because they voted one way, and now their entire state's vote is going to be flipped because of fraud, because people that are trying to commit.
Oh, you just said that it doesn't matter if the other state was committing fraud or not. It doesn't matter if they commit fraud. I thought you said, yeah, it doesn't matter. They can't sue. One state can't sue another state because they have fraud. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, Destiny. It literally doesn't matter. That's not harm. Come on now. What happened? Like, this is just logic. This is cognitive dissonance in its making with Destiny. He hates Trump so much that anything that gives Trump anything that has anything to make Trump look good, nah, it's wrong. It's obviously just wrong. Rules for thee, but not for me. Like, that's just garbage. Terrible. He's being so politically biased right now. It's actually kind of disgusting.
Fraud against the state.
But the state legislature
Could? No, but
accept-
they did it. You keep saying can, but
So
they
where's
didn't.
the fucking harm, Destiny?
The harm didn't happen because the scheme didn't work.
Harm didn't happen, and if the scheme worked, what would the harm be? Because the state would have had to actually select that slate of electors, and the state has the authority to do so. Voters be damned.
Exactly.
So where's the harm?
But the state didn't.
That's all he has to say to that. But the state didn't. He sounds so stupid right now.
If the state did, there still isn't harm. That's the thing you're missing.
If the state did accept them, eventually, the initial signatures were still fraudulent. They were.
See, he's reverting back to the initial signatures, though. The initial signatures. This is perfect cognitive distance right here. Oh, it's so spicy. It's very rare that you see Destiny actually going off of emotion instead of actually logically doing things. It's like, I don't care what happens afterwards. It doesn't. He lied. Trump lied, so it's bad. It's fraud. Trump lied, so the signatures were fraudulent because they didn't forge anyone's signatures. They put their own signatures on there. But still, the initial signatures, they were a lie. It was a lie. The piece of paper they had, that was a lie. So lie equals bad, bad equals fraud, Trump equals Trump bad, fraud. There we go. Trump bad, fraud, fraud bad, Trump.
Testing to was still fraudulent, but
he doesn't care what happens afterwards. Now Destiny's like, nope, I don't care what happens afterwards. Doesn't matter. Even though what would happen afterward, it would still end up being legal, whether it was a lie or not. Doesn't matter. But Destiny has to focus on the lie because that's the only thing that he can grasp. He's literally grasping at the only straw that he has to make Trump look guilty.